Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are having a super chill day. You know, it's the new year, we're practicing self-care. I have my matcha today. I'm in a hoodie today. I didn't do my hair. We're having a super chill time. And today I wanted to talk about some of the books that I want to read for this upcoming year. I bought a couple of books over break and I really wanted to share with you guys the books that I got because they're not all cookie cutter books, okay? I think this upcoming year I really want to try to read more books that I seek out and like books that I think are going to be interesting. Some of these books on this list are still very cookie cutter, but I am actually genuinely interested in figuring out what these books are about. So I'm really excited to share with you guys these books today, and yeah, let's get started. So the first book that I picked up was The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. I am really interested about this book because I've heard a lot of people kind of talk about it and say that it invokes a lot of feelings and follows this boy who is literally just like a good person. And I find that I don't read a lot of books with good characters in them that often, so I feel like this is a good start for me. If you guys don't know what this is about, it's about a boy who is on the autism spectrum and he is investigating this suspicious death of a dog that died in his neighborhood. And I'm really interested to see, I guess, from his perspective because it is written in first person. But yeah, I'm really excited. And it just sounds like a heartwarming story and like good vibes, but also kind of that mysterious element. The next book that I got was Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I hope I'm saying that right. I've seen this book literally all over the place. This and Murakami books I really want to read more of. People say it's really good. It's definitely classified more as a literary fiction, I think, but it does have elements of mystery and love and suspense kind of, and I'm kind of excited to see what Ishiguro can give me. Basically it follows this like English boarding school and these group of friends who grow up and kind of figure out later like what the school actually was because it's so far influenced from society. Like they finally start to uncover the truth about like what their school was. I don't know, please no one spoil this for me. I feel like this is one of those books that I really don't want to know anything about when I get into it, but I don't know, we'll see. The cover is very interesting. I'm not a huge fan of like super realistic covers. It just kind of looks creepy to me. The next book that I got I'm actually really excited to read because it's from an author that I've read a decent amount of. It's probably one of the authors that I talk about the most, but I'm actually starting to kind of fall out of love with this author, I don't know, but it's The Humans by Matt Haig. I have read 2 of Matt Haig's books. I started off by reading How to Stop Time, which I absolutely loved. I still think about that book to this day. It's probably my favorite out of all of his. And then last year I read The Midnight Library, which was his like newest release, and I found it kind of mediocre. I also thought it was really like oversimplifying mental health to an extent. So I'm kind of starting to see Matt Haig as an author that typically writes about really like psychological mental problems, but in a more fictional, like for kids kind of way. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think sometimes to a specific audience, it can be not as helpful. Not that like fiction has to be helpful, but I don't know. I've just kind of gotten into this kind of conflict with myself about whether I really like his writing or not, because I think from a fictional standpoint and from a story standpoint, he does write really good books that have really heartwarming characters and like plots and messages. But from a like real life adult mental health standpoint, I don't necessarily think that it's like the best thing that you can do for yourself in terms of reading. With that being said though, I do want to read the rest of his work, so I did pick up The Humans, which I think is one of his earlier books, and it follows this like alien in a human's body whose mission is to kind of see what human life is on Earth and to do this mission, and we get to see like what he learns about society through living as a human on Earth. Do I think this is going to be good? I'm kind of scared, honestly. I feel like it's going to be a very 3-star read just because the plot is so fantastical in a way. Like it almost seems like not substantial enough. I don't know. I really am gonna have kind of a skeptical mind going into this book. I don't know. We're gonna see. I hope it's good. I mean, I think Matt Haig does have really good intentions behind what he writes, and I think a lot of it is really good, but I just don't know if like the third book is gonna ruin it for me or like if I will like this one better. I don't know. The next book that I got is Exciting Times, which I've also seen a lot about like literally everywhere for the past 2 years, I think. And honestly, okay, I've started reading it a little bit, you can see. I think I'm kind of also having an internal conflict with like literary fiction authors such as Sally Rooney and this author as well, because I started reading this book about 2 weeks ago and I stopped and I never came back to it. I don't know why. It's not that it's not interesting, but I think at this point I've read so many literary fiction books in this style that I literally don't think I have the patience to read another one. Like, it's kind of starting to ruin the genre for me. For example, I read Conversations with Friends last year and Normal People, and then just last month I finished Beautiful World, Where Are You? And that was just a lot of Sally Rooney, a lot of like middle 20s groups of people having relationships with each other and having these life crises, career and financial transactions, and like how you look at your body, how you love someone, how you hate someone, like addiction. Like, there's just so many plots and relationships that I followed in this type of genre that I'm kind of tired of reading about it. Like, I kind of find it not pretentious, because I don't want to call it pretentious, but I just feel really like I don't care anymore when I read books like this now. Something about it has now become so draining, like reading books about mid-20s people in their like snobby careers having relationships with each other. It's not dramatic enough to me. It's too real for me, or if it's not too real, but it's like too real for a specific group of people that is not me. So I'm trying to read this, but honestly I might take a long time before I finish this, because I think I'm honestly just needing a break from the whole literary fiction Sally Rooney-esque type of train. Even though this isn't Sally Rooney, I feel like it's written very similarly to her books and has the similar plot line that her books do, and I need a break. The next book that I got, I'm actually really excited about, because it's so like not childlike, but so just like fantasy heavy and also loving and child vibes. Like, it just gives me really good vibes, and I think I might try to read this during the summer, because it definitely gives me summer vibes. And this is House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I've also seen this book all over the place, but I'm actually genuinely excited to read it because the plot just sounds so like adorable to me. It's about this guy who is in charge of like being responsible for these kids with really like fantasy characteristics, and I just think it's like such a sweet plot line. Like, first of all, I love following really well-intended old people. Not that he's old, I think they say he's like 40 years old, and also following like children that have these magical characteristics that need someone to support them like that. Just sounds like a recipe for a relationship that I would be in love with, so I'm really excited to see how that plays out. This also reminds me of books that I read in like elementary school in reading groups, when we would read like The Mysterious Benedict Society, or just books like that where you're following these like kids who have like misfit lives and they need someone to like rely on and be supported by, and I can't wait. The next book that I got, I had never heard of this book until I literally saw it in the bookstore the day that I went and got all of these books, and I really just picked it up on instinct. Like, it sounded like such a good read and just something that I need in my life, and this is Black Buck. First of all, this cover I am in love with. It's a coffee cup with the Empire State Building on it, which is so like pivotal to the story, and it's also about a black man, which I don't read a lot of books about people in other races, honestly. I've noticed that a lot in some of the books that I read. There's really not a lot of representation, and I've noticed that recently in the past year and even past 2 years, a lot of authors have started really ramping up the amount of representation that they put in their books. They're making main characters people of color, they're adding, you know, different types of relationships and sexualities and ways of living, and I'm so for that. I think it's so great to have great representation in literature. But this book is about a black man who works in a Starbucks in a New York City lobby, and he's super content with his job, loves working at Starbucks, loves his girlfriend, they live in this like apartment, whatever. And then he gets approached by this like CEO of this like super snobby company, and he gets hired as this like sales person on this really elite sales team, and it's about him kind of like navigating his way through the workplace as the only black man on his team, like kind of trying to change the standard and culture of how office life is in terms of like race and privilege, and just so many good topics that I think are so like potentially amazing in this book. So I'm really excited to see where this goes. It is really thick, but like I'm willing to put in the time. So the next book that I got, I also just saw in the bookstore and picked up because of the synopsis. Literally just because of the synopsis. Like, I am so here for this book. It's Dava Shastri's Last Day. First of all, let me tell you, okay, guys, this book is about this woman who I think she's like a billionaire, and she's super rich, super famous, like does a lot of philanthropic events and philanthropy. She does a lot of charity work, you know, she thinks she's a great person, and she gets diagnosed with this illness that basically means that she's gonna die very soon. That's not a spoiler, that's like part of the premise. And because of this, she makes it so that her death is released in the news early so that she can read her own obituaries about what people are saying about her dying. So interesting. I'm so here for it. Like, she just seems like a character that I would find so hilarious. Like, why would you want the public to think that you're dead before you're actually dead, just so that you can hear about what people think about you? Like, I think the plot is so funny to me, and I really hope that the author like executes it as well as the synopsis is, because it really sounds like it has such potential for being so good. The next book that I got is Harlem Shuffle by Colson Whitehead. Follows this guy who is a furniture salesman, I think, in like 1960s New York, and he has a family and a wife and kids, and he's really just trying to provide for his family, but he does have a history of like living in the hood and having people in his family be crooks and stuff like that. And so he has kind of like a very slippable past where that's like some of the traits that he has with him today. And he ends up getting into the wrong crowd with the intention of getting a lot of money, and it kind of follows him suddenly being in this really weird situation. Crime involved, there's mystery involved, there are investigations involved, there's like reflective points to it in terms of like what you would do for money, and you know how important things are, like your family, but also like historically who your family is and how that can kind of keep you in the same cycle if you don't try hard enough to get out. Like, I think there's so many plot points that hopefully get talked about in this book that I've heard from the synopsis, so we'll see how much gets explored. I'm really excited. I'm also really excited to just see like Harlem in New York in the 1960s. Like, that's not a setting that I've ever kind of read about. So the next book that I got, I have heard tons and tons and tons about, and this is actually the longest book that I bought. So let's just all take a moment of silence for me, because I don't know when I'm gonna read this book, but I want to so bad. And that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I feel like everyone and their mother has read this book, and everyone says that it leaves them with like some sort of just feeling of like, what the hell did I just read? Or like something that they just want to keep coming back to. I've also heard some bad reviews about it, so I don't really know how I will fall on the scale. It definitely fits my dark bookshelf. I read a lot of dark thriller, suspense, like academia type of books, and this is definitely dark academia. It's about these college kids who are at a New England college, and they kind of create this new way of thinking. Very cult vibes, very dark academia, and I'm here for it. I just don't know if I'm physically here for like the size. Also, the font is literally like so small. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna read this, but I really want to. On that same note, I also got Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, and this is also a very like dark academia, secret society kind of book, and it's also very long, so I'm really I don't know how to explain it. I want to read these books, but it's so hard to sometimes, but I'm trying to put in the effort. Kind of about a girl at a New England college in a secret society trying to figure out life. Very like suspenseful, and I'm here for it. I started reading it. I'm about like, I think on Goodreads it's like 10% of the way in, so we have a lot of legwork to do with this book, but I really want to get through it, and it's kind of getting interesting, so I'm hoping that like the more that I read it, the more things will click and the more I will enjoy it, because there's a lot of terms, a lot of like stuff to learn at the beginning that's just really like off-putting, but I feel like once I get into it, I'll enjoy it, so I'm trying to like hold out for that moment. Another dark book that I got was The Shadows by Alex North. I haven't heard like literally anything about this book, but reading the synopsis, it sounds really interesting. It's about this like kind of outsider guy who like looks like he could do something really bad, and I think he does do something bad, and that causes like an investigation of someone who's trying to replicate something that he did in the past. I don't know how much sense that makes. It's definitely not spoiling the book. It's very like investigative. There's a murder, there's like, you know, dark aspects and kind of fucked up plot twists like that. And I'm really excited to see, I guess, what the real plot of the book is, like whether the plot is going to be more investigating this new serial killer or murderer or whoever he is, or kind of focusing on the old person and how he kind of existed in society before he disappeared. Like, I don't really know what this book is gonna focus on more, but it's definitely dark vibes, definitely murderous vibes, definitely like investigative suspense, and I'm really here for it. And the last book that I got, I actually started reading yesterday, and I'm so into it. I'm so glad that I picked this up because I'm highly enjoying it. It's Convenience Store Woman. I've also heard a lot about this book, but I wasn't expecting it to be like as fun as it is. Like, I literally am only like 20 pages in, which is a lot considering it's a short book, but it has just been so like gripping, I guess. I just like feel so great reading this book. It's also really easy to read and just well written, and you can really feel exactly what she's feeling and understand the scenario that she's in and stuff like that. If you guys don't know, this book is about this woman who, I think she's 38, in Tokyo as a resident, and she works at this convenience store, and she got the job when she was 18 because she didn't really fit into society. Like, she had trouble seeing what's wrong with stuff and interacting with people and knowing what crosses a line and what doesn't. Like, she doesn't really understand social things like that. And so finding this convenience store job when she was 18 really helped her kind of settle into, this is her purpose, this is what she's good at. You know, she's good at mimicking like how to welcome people, she's good at ringing people up, she's good at doing these procedures. Like, she's really good at her job, and it's helped her find this really good place of like feeling like she has purpose in society. But then also, you know, obviously as she grows older, I haven't gotten to this part of the book yet, but I think it talks a lot about, you know, her pressures of living in Tokyo and kind of having people be like, why aren't you getting married? Why don't you get a real job? Like, kind of bringing up those questions, and I think that's really gonna be fun to explore. I also just love her already, and I'm only 20 pages in, so like I can't imagine this being bad. And yeah, I think it's gonna be absolutely great, and I can't wait to finish it. So yeah, those were all the books that I got over break and the ones that I want to read this year. Hopefully I will get around to reading all of these. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you've read any of these books, leave in the comments if you liked it. Don't spoil anything though, and make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Bye.